blast. I've been doing this long enough to remember the February days and the big build-up and the big ceremonies and balloons and donuts and all that stuff and waiting at the fax machine. It's just a little bit different than that now. Obviously this is the first year where we have the signing date this early in December. And as a profession, we've had a lot of conversations about the dates and the schedule for recruiting. A lot of this is happening much earlier, and there's just a lot going on in December. As you guys know, we finished the season last Friday night. We're decompressing from that, reviewing the season, talking to staff, a lot of different things. High school signing date is today. The portal opens up next Monday, so there's a lot going on there. A lot of conversations with our football team and looking at our recruiting opportunities there. Today, we're here to talk about this class and the guys that we've signed, and incredible group of kids that we're very, very proud of. 14 guys that we really are proud of. Staff's done an amazing job. I want to tip my hat to Nash O'Fallon and Brett Kamak and Bria Griffin, our recruiting staff, for all their hard work. We have an amazing campus and city and facilities. When these kids come, they're incredibly impressed with what CSU has to offer. And we are so proud to show them the town, show our great community, our great campus. And we have amazing people, from the people that work here in campus to our academic people on campus to the people in the restaurants downtown when we show them around. They just have an amazing couple of days. And so just really excited to talk about these guys. We have guys from 8 different states and one other country besides the United States. 3 from Texas, 2 from Arizona, 2 from California. We got 1 kid from Alabama, 1 kid from Georgia, 1 from the state of Nevada, 1 from Missouri, 1 from Tennessee, and we have a new player from Australia, another punter following Patty's footsteps. As far as position breakdown, we've got 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, 2 receivers, 2 safeties, 1 tight end, a running back, a linebacker, a kicker, and a punter. And within that group, 10 of those guys are dual sport athletes. And we love the versatility of dual sport athletes. We got a great player in Jackson Murray, the Arizona 5A Northeast Valley Regional Defensive Player of the Year, defensive tackle. Clarence Taylor led the state of Alabama in reception yards as a junior. Incredible high school career, 119 receptions, 2,500 yards, 35 touchdowns. The type of talented receiver that we're used to getting here. Cannon Valenzuela, Texas 3A All-State, second team as a junior. A great all-around player. Plays offense, plays linebacker. Just the type of guy that we want to grow into one of our defensive stalwarts. So Javion Kennard ended his career with 4,139 all-purpose yards and 44 touchdowns as a running back. And just so excited about him and this class. We're not done yet. We still have the ability to recruit high school players in January when we're able to go out on the road again. And we will be active in the transfer portal. We're looking at, I don't know, somewhere around 15, 16 kids that we may bring in the transfer portal. And we've got some really quality seniors that are leaving the program. we'll be looking for possibly a couple of tight ends, a running back, a receiver, defensive tackle. We'll be looking for some kids in the portal, safety, and we'll also be looking at offensive line. And that opens up on Monday, so there's plenty to do right now. Our football offices are buzzing and very busy. Our kids are working out and lifting this week and getting stronger. And there's a lot of activity. I just talked to them in that weight room. So we're excited about the future of CSU football and the talent that we continue to bring in. Just one point about philosophy before I open it up for questions. The high school recruitment, as far as feeding our program, is very similar to the draft in the NFL. We want to build our program through high school recruiting. We feel like we have the best evaluation, talent, character, academics of the player from the high school ranks. And we want to build our program off of a strong recruiting base in high school, coming out of high school. Obviously, the portal is the reality of where we're at in college football. We'll always be mindful of those guys, but the portal is like free agency, okay? And you don't want to build we don't want to build our program through the portal, but we will supplement the portal in areas of need and where we're thin or have lack of experience. And so we're excited to get involved in that. And we've had some success in the portal because we have a very specific way that we go about our business in the portal. So really proud of this group. We think these guys can be very good players for years to come at CSU. And I think the other thing is we just finished a season where we were 8-4, and the recruits that we've had the last couple of years, you're starting to see those guys really start to contribute in our program and emulate the qualities of toughness, physicality, hard playing effort that we want to build in this program. So really excited about this next crop of young kids.
Jay, when you look at the dates changing, the early signing period being earlier, the transfer portal open right after it, how did that alter how you go about recruiting as opposed to the years in the past? Because last year, early signing date, you signed more than 20 high school kids.
Yeah, I think it's, we've always been an early start. We felt like that gave us the best opportunity to get in on the best talent. And so we're very proactive. We have a system for what we look for. I think I'm a product of a guy who's been at very good college programs, Oklahoma and Texas and Nebraska and UCLA. But I also was with the Indianapolis Colts with Bill Polian and the Oakland Raiders with Al Davis. Learned a lot from the pro experience that I have, and I really think we've designed a criteria where we're looking at pro talent. The kids that we recruit, we're looking for the same qualities that if we were in a drafting a tackle or a guard or an offensive lineman. These high school kids have the same qualities, they're just younger. And so that has led to our philosophy of recruiting. And so size matters, length matters, hand size matters, and growth potential matters. And we have very specific qualities that we look for in receivers and tight ends and offensive linemen and linebackers and defensive personnel. So don't know if that answers your question, but we really have pushed the process early. And we just feel like if we get kids up on campus in the summertime, they see what a fabulous place this is, and it becomes very special when they compare it to other places. So we've had success doing that, and we'll continue to do it.
But are you spacing out how you add to your thing? So like last year, like we said, there was more than 20 kids you signed at the early period, just earlier this year.
Right.
Did you want to hold back a little bit, knowing that there's the later hhigh school period, there's also the
Yes,
transfer portal?
and so the other thing that's very different this year is that typically we would make a hard push in the summer, go through the season, and then we'd finish in December. Well, you can't go out on the road and recruit in December anymore, so that basically has eliminated this whole month of going out and seeing players. So that's different. You know, we might add a handful of guys this month to that number if we could go out on the road, and so that's going to get pushed back to January now. And now you got the portal in the middle. So depending on how you do in the portal and what type of kids you're able to sign, that will determine what you do when you go back out in January. So it's very different for everybody. You know, the big schools, you know, I say the Big Ten and the SEC has pushed for a summer signing period. They don't want to recruit at all. You know, they just want to sign all the kids in the last week in June and go on vacation and then recruit the portal the whole rest of the fall. And that would not be advantageous for us. And so we've been against that model. But there's still a lot of changes. And, you know, it seems like every year we deal with more rule changes.
You threw out a lot of different position groups that could be emphases in the portal. Is there one group in particular that you feel like we need to target this position?
I think D tackle is going to be important for us in the portal. And it's also one of the most difficult positions to find players. And everybody in the country is looking for defensive linemen. And so to find quality linemen that fit what we're looking for, it's not easy. But I would think that and corner are, you know, and we're losing so many secondary players. We're such top-heavy senior oriented with our secondary that to find a couple older players really would be important. I tell you, I love Jet Vincent. I think Jet Vincent is going to be a really good player for us. You know, he's in my office yesterday, and kids looking down on me, and he runs like crazy. And I know he's a six-man guy from Kansas, but you know, we've had good six-man guys before in this program, and so I'm excited about him. You know, every time he's gotten a chance to play the last few weeks, he just shows up and very physical, great special teams player, and so he's an exciting young player. And so, you know, I'm really excited about Dylan Phelps. I think he's got a chance to be a really good corner for us. And we've kind of been playing catch up, you know, at corner. We really need to sign and develop some young players in our program where they can really play for us for several years. And so that's the challenge of the portal. But, you know, we're going to have our eyes out on several different positions in the portal. And we did not sign a quarterback in this group. And so, you know, we'll just kind of see how that goes. But yeah, we could sign a couple tight ends, a couple linemen, offensive linemen, as well as probably not a linebacker. Really happy with Chase and Boom, and you know, Owen Long's had an amazing year for a young freshman. Just so proud of his progress. So we got a lot of good young kids that are doing a lot of good things, and we'll try to add to them this next month.
Will Chase be back for sure?
I'm hoping will. I've had great conversations with him, and you know, I just got to tip my hat to Chase about his leadership skills. He's been a phenomenal leader, and you know, I think that's one of the neatest things for us as coaches, to see the growth and maturity of your leadership. And you know, and I mentioned it last week. You know, I've been a head coach 8 years, and This is by far the best leadership we've had. Henry Blackburn and Jack Howell and Chase Wilson and Jacob Gardner and Torrey Horton and Patty Turner and Braden kind of stepped into that role after Torrey got hurt. Best job of leadership in my 8 years of being a head coach. And I'm so proud of how those guys have responded. And we're not done yet. We got one more game, and these games aren't worth playing if you're not in it to win it. And so, we're in it to win the game, and we're excited about the opportunity, and we're looking forward to find out where we're going. And, and it'll be most of these guys. I mean, we got some Nevada kids that have played in a bowl game, but the rest of them haven't. So excited about that.
As we scroll through this list of signees, a lot of guys that just play a lot of different positions on the football field.
Yeah.
Apart from obvious athleticism, what is it that you like about guys that kind of see the field in different ways?
It's interesting because I really think my NFL experience really opened my eyes to what to look for in players. As a coach, I mean, you can coach and prepare and put them in so many situations, but when they walk out between those white lines, there's so many things that happen that you don't always prepare for. And a guy that has versatility, and I'm gonna use a guy like Owen Long as an example. Here's a kid, he played running back, he played safety, now he's a linebacker, but he has so many different skills on the football field, and he's so smart, and he's got a great football sense. Well, he just naturally gets himself in situations and finds ways to make plays, and good players do that. Some of the best players I've ever had could play any position and play offense, defense, special teams, and really, I love watching kids play basketball because the athletic movement in basketball, the ball skills, the athletic ability they have to show in a lot of ways on defense just shows up in football all the time. And so those skills translate. We got some really good track athletes in this class as well. But all those variety of skills, we project some kids on defense, that maybe didn't play linebacker. Owen Long was not a linebacker in high school, but he had a phenomenal year playing linebacker, and it looks like he's been playing it all his life. And that's because he's got amazing instincts. And so all that kind of goes into it. And so this group is no different. We've got, Cannon Valenzuela is an example of a guy that plays, he plays receiver, he plays defense. He just has a variety of skills that'll help him be a good player at our level.
A lot of these guys that you got early commitments from, especially on the defensive side, Cannon and Branston, they had quite a few Power 4 schools kind of come in on them as the season progressed. What does that say about these kids that they stay true to their commitment?
I just think we have good relationships with those kids. I think we do a good job of following up with them and building those relationships. I think the fact that we played so well as a team as we moved on the season matters, and our great atmosphere, for home games here. They saw that, and I made a point of it in our team meeting, and I said it last week. Our attendance has been fantastic this year. We got great game atmosphere. We've had 4 sellouts. We've got our attendance is favorable to a lot of schools that maybe you wouldn't think we would be measure up with. Schools like Wake Forest and Stanford and SMU. SMU is going to be in the college football playoff. We had more people see our kids play this year than SMU did. And so that's all positive. That's positive stuff for CSU and the Rams. And it helps us in recruiting. And, and I also brought up with our kids about the portal and all that. I mean, these kids are playing in an amazing place with great support. And from our fans, from our administration, there's not many places that are better than this, and So, you know, and I've been to a lot of schools. And so, you know, I just, you know, when kids come up and they're not exposed to a lot of different places, they don't really know. And that's the unfortunate thing about the portal, is because kids just don't know. And they're making really uninformed decisions, and they listen to the wrong people. And there's a lot of people praying over kids that are uninformed, and it's unfortunate. But we've got a great place. A lot of people love to come and watch us play, and it's getting better all the time. And so I think the kids saw that, and you know, and then the fact that we're going to the Pac-12 is another thing that solidifies their belief in this place and where it's going and what we're going to be able to do in the future.
I was going to ask, how did that announcement of the conference change? How do you think that impacted your recruiting class?
It was important because you know, these Power 4 schools are recruiting these guys and, you know, telling them that they're going to have an opportunity for college football playoff and all this, and they don't have to go to a different school to get that. I mean, we can do all that here. And I think, you know, what you're seeing with some of these rankings, you know, and how many different teams have an opportunity to advance into the college football playoff, it's exciting for CSU football. I mean, you know, we're not that far away from being in the mix. And, you know, we had 4 losses this year. We had a couple close losses. You know, we're not that far away from being the type of team that could get into that mix, and that's our goal. You know, we've been unapologetic from saying that from the start, and I just think this year's been a good step towards that.
You guys had a shift in offensive philosophy this year. Was there any impact in recruiting, either from guys being like, I don't want to play in this, it's not air raid anymore,
Yeah.
or are you looking at different players because of that?
No, I just think, you know, I guess veteran coaches don't get as concerned about that. I guess I'm a veteran coach, I guess. I have some retired NFL coaches that are friends that say you have to play the game you need to play to win. And Belichick did it for years, okay? You know, he'd play it one defense one game, and then he'd look at it, the LA Rams, and they're running the ball on everybody, and he played a completely different defense than anybody had played against him. And that comes from experience and doing it, you know. You know, and I said it a few weeks ago, they're just plays to me, you know. It's a power, it's a counter, it's an outside zone, it's a play action, it's a boot, it's a drop back pass. And sometimes, I mean, we shift gears last weekend. You know, when we got behind, you saw a lot of those air raid plays. And our kids are able to shift gears and do that. And I think that's important. Yes, we've had to address that with players. You know, even our own players, you know.
Have they embraced it? Because when I asked you about this a couple months ago, you said, you know, I don't know if all of them are mature enough to understand why.
Well,
we're doing this.
I think in time, and I think it had to grow on Braden. You know, at first he didn't understand it, and guys like Torrey, who had been with me, and I mean, we've been one of the we've thrown the ball as much as anybody in the country the last few years, and Torrey's been a part of that, and so it was different for him, you know, and obviously he got hurt, and you know, so, but, you know, I mentioned this before, I went through the spring, I watched our entire football team, we watched every practice together. I think I had a real pulse on our personnel, and I felt like we needed to do this to win games. And so I'm not interviewing for my next job, okay? I want to win here. And so the things we do are, every decision that I make as a head coach is to help CSU be the very best it can be. And so my ego's not tied up in style points. And so, and a lot of people are. I mean, that's your guys' job. You write about all that stuff all the time. So you got to have something to do. So, but for me, my decisions are very simple. Is this going to help us be better? Is this going to help our guys win? And sometimes those decisions aren't popular. I get that. I got a lot of people that are mad at me. It's just the way it is. It's life in the big city. And I think every head coach understands that. When you deal with so many people, you can't make everybody happy. And so there's no sense in worrying about it because it's never going to happen. So.
Piggybacking.
Last question.
Piggybacking off that, there aren't any local kids in this class, but the understanding it's early and it's fluid. But I think there was only one reported offer too. Does that just coincidence, or
I think
you
it's
had
the
a half dozen out before?
I think it's the year. Next year's going to be
Yeah.
really good. Next year will be very, very good. Yes, and it's always, and I'm going to say this, in this NIL period and transfer portal period, it always benefits you to have local kids on your roster. Kids are less apt to leave if they're from close to home and there's families after them. And we're not done yet, so I would be surprised if we don't have several actually Colorado kids by the time we're done. Because there may be some portal kids, like Kursky was a Colorado kid that was at Wisconsin and he came back home to play for us. And I think we have heard of several kids like that have interest, and obviously we have to wait till next week and the portal opens to begin that process. But I would be surprised if we didn't have several Colorado kids before we're done.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.